What's happening, guys? Dave here. I got some coffee and a bottle. Can only mean one thing. Review time. Time to get on another one. And this one I am really excited about. I don't know that I've seen a review on YouTube yet, but I could be wrong about this. I'm really excited about this because it is from one of our fellow YouTube reviewers, and of course that is Kerosene. And this is his initial release, Rude Elements. As you can see, I didn't get the big bottle. I got the 50 ml because I just didn't think I needed 100 at the time. But he did sign it for me. I didn't notice that at first, so that was awesome. By the way, bottle looks ridiculous. I'll try to do a close-up. Whatever the paint he used, I think it was some sort of auto paint. It doesn't. It's reflective. It's also resistant to alcohol, and the label is really, really well done. The bow's a nice touch. He did a really good job of not making it look like it was just an atomizer. So, really, really well done on the bottle, buddy. As you probably know, this was released in 2011, and the perfumer is John or Kerosene, however you want to say it. Same guy. Awesome guy. Really excited to do this one if I haven't said that already. Notes. There is lavender, iris, sandalwood, amber, vanilla, orange bitters, and oud. It's not a huge amount of notes, fairly simple, but I do smell all the notes in this fragrance, so I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, as far as bottle sizes, there are two. I don't know if there's still two. There's a 50 ml, the one I have, and the 100 ml that is 140 right now on MiNNewYork.com. And that is another thing that's really awesome, is that a niche store that I've purchased other things from has picked up John's line and carries all of his bottles now, which is amazing. That is really, really awesome. Now, as far as classification, I believe it's classified as a woody, maybe a woody aromatic or a woody oriental. To me, it is woody, slightly citric, and slightly sweet oriental, but mostly the woody part. First off, let me just say how amazing it is what John has been doing with creating his own fragrances. There's like a sense of pride I think most of us here on YouTube feel when we are thinking about what John has done in creating his own very unique and up-and-coming fragrance line. Right away in this fragrance, I can smell the orange bitters, and they are bitter but also sweet, as their name would suggest, at least the bitter part. The opening is a thing of beauty, in my opinion. The oud is definitely there, and while it is medicinal as usual, it smells very, very high quality and is balanced and tamed well by the bitters, and some really, really well done sandalwood, which is one of my favorite notes, and also amber. The oud does come off a bit harsh for the first few minutes on my skin, but it quickly settles down as the amber, sandalwood, and orange bitters start to battle to become the most dominant note. The balance of these notes is, in my opinion, flawlessly executed by John, creating a unique and extremely easy to wear oud fragrance, which oud, if you know well, can sometimes be difficult to wear regularly. And this is, in my opinion, by far one of the easiest oud fragrances to wear that I have come across. I do also get some vanilla in the top, late in the top, as well as some tame but very present lavender and iris, sweetening things up and adding a little extra depth and powderiness to it. The combination of all these notes, all these very, very well chosen notes, I should say, leads to a beautiful, slightly powdery vibe, which I believe is coming from that lavender and that iris. The use of these two florals and the amounts really adds a depth and mysterious quality to the fragrance that I think many ouds are lacking, as well as the orange bitters. Lavender and iris are also two of my favorite notes, so it's no surprise that I really like this. While they are far from dominant in this fragrance, I definitely feel their presence as well. The mid, to me, is really an extension of the top on my skin, and it doesn't change too much, although the oud does continue to calm down a little bit more, but it is still a main player in this fragrance. I find the scent to be fairly linear for the first 4 to 5 hours, but at least after the first 5 to 10 minutes when the oud starts to dry down on my skin. Now, the dry down is mostly oud with the orange bitters still hanging on, but not nearly as potent as the top. The amber, sandalwood, and vanilla create a much sweeter dry down on my skin and then I feel on the top and the mid it's much sweeter. The oud is still mixing with these notes, however, it is still definitely an oud fragrance. I have to say that I do love the dry down, but the top and mid is probably my favorite part of this fragrance, but I am a fan of oud. The dry down is lacking a bit of that edge that I find in the top, but it is by no means a slouch. That said, I do really think the dry down smells absolutely fantastic. It's the part of the fragrance which, in my opinion, or at least my experience, is most likely to yield you compliments, as it is a little bit sweeter and a little less medicinal. I would say that this fragrance is really best for anything. I can see it worn to a wedding, work, going out, pretty much any setting I can see it working. As far as what I've heard from women on this one, it's garnered me a lot more compliments than I expected to get with an oud fragrance. The feedback from women over 25 has been surprisingly positive. I figured this was going to be a fragrance that was more for my enjoyment, but people around me have been enjoying it. As far as age, I would say that it's a 25 plus or an experienced nose, as oud is definitely not going to be for everyone. Number of sprays, I go 3 with this fragrance. It's not super potent, but it's the right amount of potent. Any more than 3, and I think it might be a little much. Depends on the setting. If I'm going to work, I wear 1 or 2. If I'm going out to a club or something, then I'll go 3. Now, as far as who would like it, this may seem obvious, but if you like oud, orange bitters or orange, amber, vanilla, or sandalwood, then I would definitely check it out. The dominant notes to me in descending order are oud, orange bitters, sandalwood, amber, and vanilla. I also do get a good amount of lavender at times on my skin, but lavender tends to jump out a little more on my skin than on most people's, so take it with a grain of salt. Why would you not like this if you're not a fan of oud? Well, even if you're not a fan of oud, this is a really good oud entry into the oud genre, along with Montel's Red Oud, which is actually a little bit much sweeter. But if you strongly dislike oud, woody fragrance, or orange bitters, I would probably avoid this, but I would still recommend sampling it anyway. Now, as far as bottles, I would say that if you like Creed's Royal Oud by Killian's Pure Oud, this one may sound a little weird, but I'm actually going to say Andy Towers' Liar du Desert Americain, which is more of a dry, woody, amber, vanilla, and incense, but this one has that woody aspect to it, and as well as the amber and the vanilla. I would also say Yves Saint Laurent's M7, which is not nearly as woody and a lot more medicinal. I'm actually also going to say Le Labo Santal 33, which may sound weird to people, but I do get a lot of sandalwood in this fragrance. Basically, what I'm striving at is that if you like oud, you should definitely try this, and even if you don't, you may enjoy it more than you think you will. What do I think of when I wear this? Honestly, this one really kind of stumped me as far as imagery. I have a hard time picturing oud, if that makes sense, but here goes. Take a slab of raw oud, dilute it a little bit, sprinkle on some bitter oranges, grind up a little amber. I don't know if you can grind up amber. If you can't, do it. Make it a little powder, whatever. Light a vanilla candle, like on the far side of the room, so the vanilla part isn't overwhelming, and sprinkle on a nice amount of sandalwood sawdust. That's kind of what I get from this. I don't actually picture anything like as far as being in the woods or anything like that, if that makes sense, because I haven't come across oud naturally other than in fragrances. So let's get into the ratings, the fun part. Overall smell, I'm going to give it an A-. The very beginning of the opening is a little bit harsh to me and was off-putting for the first few wearings. Granted, it only lasts about 5 minutes, though, on my skin at least. Some people I've heard 10 to 20. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite oud fragrances, and I'm extremely happy to own a bottle, as I use it a lot more than I anticipated I would. Now, as far as projection, I keep saying as far as, but it's what I do. So, projection, let's give it a B. I find it gets closer to the skin after 4 to 5 hours, but it still can be smelled fairly easily depending on where you spray and how many sprays. Overall, the projection is above average, but it's not quite approaching monstrous. I mean, a B is not a bad grade for projection. Longevity, it's going to get a B+. It's pretty good on my skin. I average about 8 to 12 hours, which is above average in my opinion. If a fragrance like this gives me 8 hours every time, I'm very happy. It has lasted up to 18 on my skin, but I average 8 to 12 with it. So, as far as uniqueness, B+. There aren't really many fragrances like this out there, in my opinion. Sure, there are plenty of oud fragrances to choose from, but the addition of the orange bitters adds a unique quality to the scent and makes it much more wearable than most. Versatility, it's going to get a B plus again. It's better than I anticipated again. I think this can be worn for pretty much any occasion, and it's versatile enough for fall, winter, and spring. I do think the oud and everything, I think it's just going to be too heavy for warmer weather, but I have not fully tested it in warmer weather yet, so I could be wrong about that. My overall rating, I'm going to give it an A-, which number terms, I'm thinking 9 out of 10, which is not a bad grade at all. To me, this is an amazing first release from John. I can tell by the quality and the way that this is blended, he spent a lot of time finding the right amount of each note to create this blend. You can just tell he put a lot of time into this fragrance. So far, this is my favorite fragrance from his house, but I didn't like Copper Skies at first, and I'm really coming around on that one quickly. I cannot wait to see what John comes up with next, and I could not be prouder of him for what he is doing right now. Considering that we are amateurs in comparison to perfumers who make pretty good money creating unique, long-lasting, high-quality, and wearable, beautiful fragrances, it's so impressive that he is doing the same thing, and well. I cannot stress that enough. It is amazing to me. I eagerly await his next releases. I will be splitting Copper Skies in the not-too-distant future, and as well, I will be splitting Creature when spring comes around. Really, all I have to say is bravo, John, dude. Bravo, buddy. You did an amazing job on this fragrance, and I really hope your success continues with this making your own fragrance things, because I am really impressed, and I don't usually get impressed all that easily. This stuff, really well done, buddy. That is it for now, guys. That is my take on Kerosene's Rude Elements. And as my shirt says, trust me, a Jedi I am.